All right, this is the grand piano that we've been working on. It is a project for Young Chang. This piano has the EP500 series control panel in it, except that the buttons, instead of being in two parallel rows, have been separated and stretched into one single long row. And one of the fellows that's been working with me on this project, Milton Holliday, did the modifications of the existing EP500 series control panels so that they could be used for this button assembly. The metal panel was sent to us stamped from Korea, but there was not a circuit board made for it, so we had to fabricate that, or that is, Milton Holliday fabricated the circuit board out of an existing EP500 series circuit board and put it in here behind this control panel. The keyboard that's in this piano is the standard keyboard for the EP500 series, and also it's the Fatar keyboard. This cabinet is a little bit smaller than a G-150 cabinet. It does not have the spade type legs on the bottom. I hope that perhaps we might think about having a little bit thicker leg made for it, something a little bit more substantial. There has also been some question about the music rack being a little bit too large in scale for the piano. This particular music rack apparently was not redone for this actual piano. The music rack looks like it's probably one right off of a regular G-150, so it might be a little bit too large for this case. But the case is rather compact. It's not quite as thick from here to the bottom, but it's a very compact unit. Now we see the inside of the piano, which represents the bulk of the design work that we were doing. This piano has a bass woofer section, which is the light colored part in the middle. It's a very high gloss hard rock maple veneer, and it covers the woofer section, which has a 12-inch woofer built into it. The cubic inch displacement of this speaker is not quite as large as one of the EP500 series spinets. However, it's substantially larger than the woofer area that's in the G541. On each side of the woofer enclosure are these ribs that look like cast iron. They are actually made out of wood. They have just been hand rubbed many times, painted with a gold color that is used for making picture frames, but beyond that they have been sprayed with clear lacquer, so they appear to be very metallic. There are 3 ribs, the third one being down here, this short rib that's down at the end. On each side of the woofer box are 2 speaker enclosures. Each one contains a mid-range and a tweeter, and the space that they are located in is actually open all the way through the piano down to the ground, the floor, or the ground in this case. We have the piano outside, and you can see down through here. The speaker can be rotated so that when the lid on the piano is down, the sound can be deflected through the bottom of the piano onto the floor. Now the speakers are open on the back side, although there's a grill on both sides. The tweeter is not open on its back side. It faces forward and sounds only in one direction. The mid-range sounds not only forward, but some of its sound comes out the back. So if you want a bright sound, you can turn the speaker up like this. That gives you the tweeter and the mid-range. If you want a more mellow sound, then the sound that would come from this side only would represent the mid-range frequencies. Same thing happens for the enclosure that's on the other side, and it rotates also. And if you look around here, we can see that this speaker will also rotate through approximately 270 degrees, 280 degrees of rotation. When the player sits at the piano, depending on how these speakers are located, they will deflect off of the inside surface of the piano lid and then back down on this hard surface area, and will be dispersed in many different directions. And of course, depending on how that speaker is angled, you're going to be controlling a very large angle of sound dispersion. So if anybody has any question about where the sound is coming from, or if they don't particularly care for it being right in their face, the speakers can be rotated in such a way as to make the sound more pleasing overall. Obviously we have the top off of the piano right now so that things can be explained. This speaker is also in an area that opens up all the way through. Now there's a very unique thing about this bass woofer section, and that is that it has a port. It has a tuned, ducted port, and that port is actually located back in this corner. It's very difficult to see in this particular picture, but there is an opening right there. That is a ducted, tuned port for the bass section. The bass speaker itself is a 12-inch woofer that is on the bottom side of this box right here, and it is open to the bottom. It opens and speaks down to the floor, and of course its frequency range is in the lower frequencies, so that the directionality of its sound is rather omnidirectional, and it's not so important that it be located in a place where it is blaring right at you. It goes down to the floor. Normally a ducted port will be on the same surface as the bass woofer. To help enhance the overall volume of the bass woofer in its upper frequency ranges, we decided to locate the ducted tuned port back in this corner and open it to the side. By doing so, we get a horn, a double horn. The first horn comes very much like the old horn on an old phonograph. The first horn comes in this V-shaped area that comes out the corner of the piano and moves towards the large curved end. Then, of course, the grand piano lid that would normally be on this piano forms the second horn, which is very much larger, of course. So, in effect, the sound that comes out of this ducted port is sort of squeezed out of this small corner and accelerates back toward the curved rim, and then is further expanded between this hard surface and the underside of the grand piano lid itself. Makes for a rather compact design, but it has a lot of oomph and it really sounds good. Now let's take a look at the bottom side of the piano. From where the pedals are located, right here in the middle, the control wire has not been actually mounted yet, but it goes up to the bottom side of the piano and through the keyboard bed that the keyboard sits on. This may not show up too well, we're going to see, but just to the other side of that thick keyboard bed is where the piano opens up under the part that we designed. Here's part of the open part underneath that shows one of the speakers rotating. And if I can get Jim Blyther over here to rotate that speaker for me. Jim, if you'll turn that speaker just a little bit. I can see how that rotates and can be deflected at any angle down towards the floor. Here again, this helps enhance the sound when the lid of the piano is closed. And of course, in the middle of the piano is where we have this woofer. It's mounted right there in the center. And then over on the other side, we can see over on the other side is where the other opening is. This fellow here taking the pictures is one of the guys that worked with us on this project. This is Milton Holliday. He's the electronics guy with us, and also the fellow that helped design the mid-range and tweeter speakers, and also helped us tune the ducted port for the woofer. I'm going to move right up towards the piano. Let's go up close and look at something on this soundboard area. It's literally a soundboard area for a couple of reasons. It does vibrate just a little bit in the mid and upper range of the woofer speaker, but it also deflects a lot of sound back and forth between its top and the underside of the lid of the piano. This woofer goes up under the board that's underneath where the music rack is located, this area right here. It is also attached to the rim of the piano in the back on three very large pieces of oak posts that are vertical along the back edge of the piano. And the lid of this, or the top surface of this soundboard area, is bolted down to those three oak posts. And we decided that we wanted to decorate the tops of where this is connected. We weren't sure how to dress those, and so we thought of the buttons, wooden buttons that are on the soundboard area on the backs of pianos. Here again, we tried to use as much hardware, such as these rims, the ribs that go along the piano like this, and the little wooden buttons. We tried to use as much of that type hardware as possible to make the instrument more reminiscent of hardware and typical construction that you would find on a conventional piano, whether it be an upright or a grand. Here's the long rib on this end. Comes along like this. One of the fun things is going to be when people try to decide where the wires are coming from on this little speaker right here. Because there are no wires visible, no matter where we look. And as you rotate this speaker, no wires get twisted up. Also, there are some stops that cause this speaker to keep from rotating. Those stops aren't visible. These speakers are balanced, by the way, just like tires on an automobile. Vibrations from the bass or anything will not cause them to move. They're very, very, very smooth velvet feel when you turn them. And there's a wire going into this speaker on one end or the other. I'm not really, I can't say where that wire comes in. These guys don't want me to tell you. But they come in here somewhere, and we'll let you look for them. They're around there somewhere. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at the piano with its top on it. Okay, before we put the lid on the piano, we thought we'd give you an overhead shot. So I've climbed up on a ladder and we see the first rotating speaker sits in this area, and then the woofer area in the middle, and then the right channel speaker over there. This might be a good location to mention this particular shot. The sliding top on this piano, where the music rack comes across, can be removed. Jim, if you will, why don't you and Milton pull that music rack off of there just a minute? I want them to see, when you take this music rack off, we have a very large flat surface here now. And some of you might imagine a nice Macintosh or IBM computer sitting right there. And lots of room left over down here at this end for manuscript paper. And the height of this above that keyboard is just perfect for you know what. It's really kind of a unique layout. So that's the piano from above. One more thing we'll do before we put the lid on is we'll take a shot from right about that area into the back of the piano and show you where the electrical connections are made for the MIDI connections and so forth. They're right down in here.
Use, like you're talking about? Well, let me put that in the standard model.
Down in this area, underneath where the right-hand rotating speaker is, or the right channel treble side, underneath down in here in this opening are some familiar sites. Here's the electrical connections for the auxiliary inputs and outputs. A little bit further over is where the headphone jack, the AC power line connects. And a little bit further over, the light's not too good right here. Let's rotate this speaker down just a little bit. There we go. Right in here would be the MIDI connections. Those can be accessed either from above or beneath the piano through the open part. And we got a few more pictures to take here with the still cameras, and then we'll put the lid on the top. This is one of the other fellows that worked with us on the project, Jim Blyther, with his camera. And
still in the roll up the cover cord.
Jim has been rebuilding pianos for many years in this area of South Carolina. Very well known as one of the better tuners around and piano technicians. Also has a very nice shop here where we did a lot of finish work on the piano. In fact, that shiny part of the piano right there that we see the reflection of the ladder against the building in, he finished that black to match the piano. That was actually the front board of an upright piano. In fact, you can see along this edge of that board, that would have normally been the bottom edge of the board that would be right behind the music rack on an old vertical piano. And he refinished that, filled it, and made it black. It just happened to fit the top of the piano very nice, where we had rearranged this enclosure. Of course, all the electronics are located in that section. Now, one other thing I'd like to get them to do, let's see, where did Jim go? Jim, if you would, here's another piece of work that we did, and that is on the fall board. The fall board slides out between this area right here, the cross member that goes across the piano. It slides out between that and the control panel. Jim, if you will, let's pull that out and let them see how that slides out. It comes out kind of like a sliding fallboard on a vertical piano, except that it has a sort of a double articulated double lever system behind it. So when it pushes back in, it actually starts rising up right there and goes up over the sound engine, and then in its resting position, it of course finishes off the area visually between the control panel, the top of the control panel, and the bottom side of the cross member that goes across. Now Mr. Holliday is seeing me over here to see what he wants me to say. I think he's up here on top of this ladder. Don't know what he's doing up there.
Yeah, look at it.
Okay.
What did he say?
There's our electronics man up in the air.
Stay where you are, Milton.
Actually, he got up in the air a couple of times at us on this project. But by the time we got it all together, it's got its feet firmly on the ground here, and I hope everybody's going to like it. Our new... I think I did say earlier we were going to put the lid on the piano. So here it is with the top on it. Just put this top back on. And folks, this piece de resistance did not get here without a little bit of levity. As you can probably imagine, my two cohorts here do have a sense of humor, and we hope that the people looking at this crazy film will agree. Anyway, there it is with the top up, and it also has the little short piece. Jim, if you pull out that little short, there we go. It also has the little short one that goes on there. There we go. So we can put the short prop up too.
You need to set that on.
Now put the music rack assembly back on there, Jim. Here's the two chrome glides. Has a conventional mounting. Oop, lost the piano. There we go. Scheme for the slides for the music rack. Here it comes. Just put it right in there. And it sits up there like that. Okay. So there she is. And from Bishopville, South Carolina, so ends the saga of the Young Chang Digital Grand.